How's it going, guys? This is Jack from Northeast Strength and Conditioning Incorporated. Today I am here to bring you, the new coach, the squat. Okay, how to coach it, ways to teach it, basically the basics of the squat, what we're looking for out of you in coaching and teaching the movement, assessing people, cueing them, fixing problems, and so on. Okay, so first, welcome to the team. Okay, we're here to talk about the squat today, and then we'll talk about other movements later on in different videos, but today this is the main focus. All right, so first, let's talk about setup. Okay, so first, the most important part is, where's the bar coming from? It's coming out of a rack, okay? So the rack height, okay, it needs to be basically nipple height, all right? If it's any higher, okay, people are going to be forced into coming up on their toes and taking those steps out of the rack, and we never want people to be on their toes lifting heavy weights. All right, and then if the rack is too low, okay, people are exerting a lot of energy just getting under it and then having to basically squat it up out of the rack, okay, that's not what we're looking for, all right? We want to basically not waste any energy taking it out of the rack, okay? So nipple height should be a good height for most people, all right? That way they're not expending a lot of energy getting underneath the rack, staying the weight up, and then initiating the squat, okay? So we got rack height down, okay? Take an even hand grip, okay? If your hands are off, okay, the musculature in your back, okay, your lats, your traps, okay, other muscles like that, okay, they're going to be off if you take an off grip, okay, and the bar could shift off to either side depending on which hand is farther out to the either side, okay, so if the bar is like that, okay, you could have some serious problems, okay, the obliques, one is working harder than the other to stabilize, okay, then you get hip dysfunction and all that other stuff, okay, so just make sure our clients take an even grip, okay, on that bar, be it narrow, be it wide, depending on the type of squat we do, okay? When they pull themselves underneath the bar, okay, they need to pull their shoulder blades back, okay? So instead of just being lackadaisical about it, okay, being all lazy, okay, make sure they pull their shoulder blades back, tighten up that upper back as hard as they can, okay? That is going to create a firm base for the weight to rest on. It's going to engage the traps, okay, their lats are going to be firing so that their whole upper torso is strong and ready to lift weight. Next, high bar versus low bar. So I have this PVC pipe with me today. Okay, so the difference is, high bar, we have a closer grip with our hands. We have all 10 fingers wrapped around the bar, and our bar rests across the base of the traps, right? The whole meat of the bar rests on our traps. And then, okay, this is a more upright squat. So from the side, right, I take my deep breath, squat, and it's very straight up and down. Whereas low bar, okay, our hands go just a little bit wider, okay, enough where the bar can move about an inch down, okay. And now I'm slightly pitched forward in my squat ever so slightly, okay, because my hips shift back, okay, and this is a more controlled, fast squat, okay, so we control it on the way down, and then we drive up out of the bottom, okay. So those are the different types of squats that we will do for back squatting, okay? Usually you'll get people to complain about shoulder problems with the low bar position because their shoulders need to anteriorly rotate, okay? Which it could be a problem for a lot of people, but they get used to it, okay? Biomechanically, low bar, you should be able to lift more weight because you're getting a little bit more leverage on the bar, whereas high bar, you're producing more force because you're in such a more upright position that the bar is farther away from our hips in a high bar position than a low bar position, okay? So just keep that in mind when you're working with athletes. If they can go low bar and they want to lift heavy weights, push them to do that. You're recruiting more muscles from the hamstrings and the glutes, okay? Whereas the high bar, they're gonna work a little bit more on their quads because it's so upright that they're not really getting that stretch reflex from their hamstrings. Now let's talk about the feet, all right? The feet, they need to be about shoulder width apart, okay, and the toes slightly pointed out, okay? It's important because if the toes aren't slightly pointed out, you're closing off your hip, okay, and you're not allowing that opening of the hip when you initiate the squat, right? When we initiate a squat, we break the knees, kick our butt back, and the hip opens because the knees are tracking over the toes, okay? This is an important part, all right? Deep breath, okay? When you fill your stomach with air, okay, you're bracing, okay? It's almost like wearing a weight belt, but an imaginary one. You take a deep breath into the bottom of your stomach, okay? Not in your chest. If you take a deep breath into your chest, you're basically surrendering yourself and not having a strong torso when you initiate the squat. So fill your stomach with air, try to expand as wide as you can, okay? And then hold your breath, and then we take the bar out of the rack, we stand up, and we take only 2 to 3 steps out of the rack. If you take more than that, you're exerting a lot of energy, you have a lot of time under tension, okay? These 2 to 3 steps are meant to get you ready, okay? Getting your feet set up in that shoulder width apart, toes slightly pointed out, and then you're ready to go. Once you're there, right, you take another deep breath, okay? Fill the stomach with air, hold it, and then the descend begins, where we open up the knees, we push our butt back, and we descend just below parallel, right? So all we're looking for is that the hip crease breaks below the knee, okay? So if you can see, okay, we're here, all right? Hip crease breaks, and then we're driving back up, okay? And then let's talk about common coaching mistakes, okay? A lot of coaches miss this, okay? They don't observe their athlete just moving, okay? Common mistakes is that people will just jump on a cue instantly. So if people are like filling their stomach with air, or they don't fill their stomach with air, and they lift their chest up, and then people are just gonna jump on it because coaches wanna basically show their knowledge, okay? Allow them to actually do the movement, okay? So allow them to descend, stand, do a few reps in front of you so you can actually see the big picture, okay? Think of it like you're looking at a painting. Okay, a painting, you're supposed to look up at the whole entire thing as a whole rather than just one focal point here and there, okay? So as coaches, we should only have a 3Q rule, okay? If you give a athlete, client, soccer mom, okay, anyone more than 3 Qs, they're instantly gonna forget a few of them, okay, because that's a lot to handle, okay, especially if you're using scientific terms, okay, it's just gonna really confuse the member. And 3 Qs, it's not overwhelming for the athlete. If you give them more than 3, they're gonna automatically think negatively, like, oh man, I'm not doing like a good job, and this guy's like telling me I have like 5 different things wrong with my squat. Narrow it down to 3 important parts, okay? Now, dumb it down, all right? This is my favorite. A lot of coaches want to prove that they know a lot about the subject, so they start using all these scientific fancy terms where that's all well and good if you're talking to an exercise science professional, okay? But if you're talking to a client, okay, you need to dumb it down to a vocabulary where everyone can understand, okay? So if someone's knees are starting to cave in, okay, as exercise science majors, we know that that's a valgus movement at the knee. Okay, you're not gonna say that to a member, okay? You need to say, hey, try to focus on pushing your knees out over your toes when you squat, okay? That's gonna be like, oh man, that's a good thing to focus on, instead of, hey, you have valgus movement of the knee, try to push those knees out over your toes, okay? People are gonna be like, what the hell is valgus, okay? So just dumb it down to something that everyone can understand. Then people are gonna think you're actually more knowledgeable because you can break it down into simple terms, okay? This is one of my favorites as well, okay? I learned this the hard way, okay? You can't fix everyone in one day, okay? You gotta be patient, okay? As long as they show improvements, movement-wise, strength-wise, whatever it may be, like a week-to-week basis, even maybe months, you're doing your job right, okay? You gotta be patient with the outcome of things. If they show improvement week to week, great, you're doing an awesome job. If they don't, we need to reanalyze and figure out what you're not doing right coaching them, or if it's just them not really putting the work in. Now, what to look for. This is an important piece because if you can see something's wrong, okay, how do you fix it? That is an important part of coaching, especially in this type of setting, strength and conditioning. So first, this observation comes into play again. How do they look when they move? When they squat especially, does it look like they're doing 40 different movements as they squat down, or does it look fluid, okay? If it's broken down into 40 parts, okay, that's when you kind of step in, right? If they set up, right, and they kind of kick back and then start to bend at the knees and then kick back again, it's very choppy. That's when you can basically allow them to finish the movement, have them rack it, and then you go in and fix it and just basically teach them how to move more fluidly, right? So it starts with the knees, right? You break the knee, you push your butt back, allow the hips to open, and then once you hit proper depth, that's when we stand. Next, the feet. Okay, the feet can tell a lot about someone, okay? If they come up on their toes in the bottom of the squat, you know that they're either really quad dominant, okay? And their Achilles and their calves are really tight. If it is a mobility problem, okay, give them mobility drills or exercises to work on it. It's all well and good that you can point out a problem, but how can you fix it? That's basically why people are here, to fix problems, to get healthier, to get fitter, whatever it may be. If their feet are too narrow, it's gonna be really hard to get proper depth unless they're hypermobile. And if their feet are too wide, it's also gonna be really hard to get really down at the bottom of the squat because the shins won't be at a good angle to track over the toes, and it could be just a lot of hip problems. So make sure their feet are a good proper distance apart. Usually shoulder width apart will be perfect for a lot of people, and have their toes slightly pointed out. The midfoot is the most balanced point of the foot, so you want the bar to rest directly on top of it the entire way through the movement. If it shifts out of position, it's going to make it really hard for that athlete. Okay, so keep the bar directly over the midfoot as long as possible throughout the entire squat so it's a more straight up and down fashion. They should be able to keep this because you're not focusing them too much on the heels, and if they're on their toes, it's obviously pretty bad. So basically, put an object next to their midfoot and tell them that is where they're trying to balance the entire way through the squat. Okay, now depth. Again, if it's a mobility issue, give them mobility drills to work on it. If it's the ankles, give them calf stretches, whatever it may be. A lot of the times it's hip flexor issues because, as you know, a lot of us sit for a while unless you're doing a job like this where you stand a lot of the day. Okay, but a lot of people are coming from a desk job where they're sitting, okay, so they have a chronically shortened hip flexor, which is going to affect their squat dramatically, okay? So give them hip stretches to do in between sets. That way they're actually accomplishing something within that day and getting the squat work in. Then we have posture, okay? Posture is so important because, again, we go back to that midfoot idea. If you shift out of position, it's gonna make that squat that much harder for that person, okay? So if you can keep that upright posture, okay, and maintain it throughout the entire squat, the bar is gonna stay over that midfoot the entire time, and it's gonna be very fluid, and they're going to be getting the actual benefits because they're not shifting into a bad position, right? You've probably seen before, people will get down to the bottom of the squat, and then they shift back with their knees so that they get basically into a good morning position, and then they totally take the quads out of the equation, right? And the squat is a very quad dominant movement, okay? So be very aggressive with how you coach the posture, right? Make sure they understand that they have to keep an upright torso, okay, the entire time, keeping their chest up and really fight for that upright position, okay? So guys, that'll do it for the squat, all right? Stay tuned for the next episode.